there and welcome to my channel. My name is Julia and I'm a self-confessed colour magpie. So anytime I see a product, especially an art product, I feel like I need it in every single colour. As such, I may have done a thing. That massive box over there. It may or may not be the Sarah Rennie Clark brand new colour cubes. Ugh, so excited, cannot wait to unbox. But I do possess the originals, so has my colour magpie-ness taken over and I've wasted my money, or was it worth the upgrade? Shall we unbox, have a little look and find out? Volume 1 and 2, 3 and 4. How useful is that? It says open here. The amount of boxes I've destroyed because I've not known where to open. So I'm going to actually open this band up. I don't know that I'll be doing it with all of them. I don't really want to destroy it. But there's quite a lot of useful information on the inside of it. To be honest, I probably wouldn't be storing my colour cubes with the banner anyway. But just, right. So inside we've got how finding the colour palettes easy. We've got the colour name, the tints and shades, the hex code. I do love the fact there's a hex code. It makes it great when it comes to digital art. Different ways you could use the palettes. So we've got different fun ideas. Place a handful of cards on your desk. Challenge yourself to use colours you wouldn't normally use. Set up a colour palette challenge with a friend. Choose 2 cards and mash up. Hunt for more colours to make your palette bigger. Then we've got a breakdown of what's in each one, and then explore the world of digital colour, and it's got the colourcompanion.com. So I might check that out. To be honest, if you want to know more, I would look at Sarah's original video because it explained it far better than I could. So yeah, interesting. So this is number 1. I push, oh my goodness, colour cubes all over my studio. Try and get this so it looks nice and neat. Ta-da! Right, so where's my original? So this is one of the main differences. Firstly, the box is wooden. How cool is that? And this one is cardboard. The main difference that you can see, so this is the new one and this is the old one. So these are so much easier to pick out and use. This one, I don't know if you can see, let me have a look. You just see that if I was to pick this one that's right at the front here, firstly it's a bit difficult to use. But the first one I've got access to is number 4. Number 1 is way down there, so I can get it, but it's a lot more of a faff than getting one of these out. So those that is one of the differences that she had feedback on. It did bother me a little bit. I mean, I found workarounds. What I would normally just do is sort of take a chunk of them out like this. I would take a chunk out like that and then I would have flickability. But now I will not have to do that. So I think it's a minor thing. I mean, so you can just see that's already just dropped down. I've put 1 in and now I can get to 2, but I can't get to 1. 1 is sunk all the way down. So yeah, it is a bit of faff. It is a bit annoying. This is so much easier, and as I said, it's a lot more durable. The next thing that she has is that she has dividers. This I'm quite excited about. So we will set these up now for every single one. We've got like a spare divider, but then we've got it in categories now. So we've got enchanting landscapes. I love the fact that these are kind of rainbowed as well. Enchanting landscapes, Sandy Shores, and then you can see all of the numbers. So you don't even have to flick through, you could just take the dividers out and have a look. So that'll be easier. We've got Sandy Shores. Oh wow, look at that. Bold and bright, like the look of that one. Beautiful food, natural wonder, summer, autumn, winter. That's great when you're doing seasonal crafting. Spring, not sure why spring is after winter. That seems a bit daft. I mean, it's not really going to affect my life too much, but I don't know why we've started. I don't know why we've started so we end the seasons in spring. I would have started them and gone spring, summer, autumn, winter. But anyway, maybe it's to do with the actual, so that they've all gone, because then she's got Christmas season and then Sweet Valentine. I'm sure she had her reasons, but yeah, each to their own. So I'm going to pull out all the dividers now and set up each of my boxes. So I have just finished putting all of the divider cards into the cubes, and I actually really enjoyed the process. I found it a little bit like when I swatch. Sometimes when I swatch, you just get to know the product a little bit better and you have some aha moments, and it just helps you to kind of know what direction you're going to go in with it. One thing I found really, really interesting was the categories. I mean, I knew the categories were coming. I knew they were one of the new features. I suppose I hadn't thought about it as how beneficial that would be. The categories are now in, well, I showed you some of them at the beginning, but what I thought was particularly useful if you're a colourist that's colouring in, or if you are a crafter making cards and things like that. I mean, there's like a wedding category. So if you're making a wedding card, you could go straight to the wedding section and get ideas. We've got things like Sugar Rush. So if you've got an image of a cake, you could just immediately go into that section and you have all your cake ideas there. So I think it is going to take away a lot of searching. I know sometimes you kind of think, oh, what colour palette will I do? And it was literally a case of going through all 500 cards that were there before. You might have a rough idea where they were, but they weren't categorised as clearly. And although I knew that was going to be a change, I don't think I'd fully appreciated the value of that change. And it's going to make it so much easier to use. And I think if a product is easier to use, you use it more. So I have mine on the desk. I have used it regularly. But I suppose there maybe was occasions where I didn't use it because I do know colour. I enjoy colour. I can put colour together, but I just always put the same colours together because I tend to go for my favourites, which we'll go into in depth in a bit more. But I do think this will be really handy. As I said, we've got retro flare, like neon glow. You might look at that viral technique on how to create a neon colouring, which is really fun, but then be stuck on the colourways. You just pick out this section of cards and you've got it straight away. It's really easy to find. So I think that is actually going to be a really helpful feature that I'm going to use a lot more than I thought I would when I heard about it. So that is really good. And actually, when we go to test the cubes, originally I was just going to pick two cards at random. I think I will choose a random card, but then I think I will choose one specifically to what I'm going to colour in. Like for example, I've got woodland stamps, we've got a woodland section, just all sorts of stuff like that. So I think that is really, really helpful. I think it's going to, when it comes to creating and choosing colour, it's going to cut down the amount of time. The other thing I find is sometimes when you're overwhelmed with choice, you end up in analysis paralysis. I know that when I choose to create, that sometimes I choose one stamp and one medium and that's my starting point. Sometimes if you look at your whole crafty stash, there's so much you feel overwhelmed and can't pick a starting point. And I think that the way the cubes were before, there was 500 colour palettes, there wasn't particularly a effective order to them. So there was the danger of just like looking at all this colour, all been amazing, looking at it, feeling inspired, but also loving it all so much that you don't know where to start, which I think the fact that you narrow it down to a smaller category just means you're more likely to actually start your project. It's going to be easier to choose what you actually want to do. So I think that's all good, and that is something I wasn't expecting to find as going through this, so that was really cool. If there was a weird edit there, I do apologise. Battery life. Battery life disappeared, but I waffled on so long that I really wasn't thinking about refilming that, so I apologise if there's a bit of a funny edit. Anyway, one of the other things that Sarah has done is kind of technical. I mean, to be honest, her mind and the way it works blows my mind. It's like stuff that I wouldn't even contemplate, and yeah, she's amazing. But there's colour translates differently digitally as it does physically. So if you are only doing physical paintings, you might not have to worry about things like you've got your hex code back there. For me, I do a bit of both. I use hex codes a lot because with my branding, it means that I can type in the hex code and I get the exact same colour no matter where I get it printed or no matter what I do digitally, etc. So that's why your hex codes are useful. So if you use digital art, then you might want it for that. If not, you might not be bothered. But also in a resource that Sarah has coming, the hex codes would be useful because it helps you find the closest product. I will let Sarah explain that. Go to her video. But basically, when you are looking at colour on a screen, it is in a RGB format. It tends to be brighter, more vibrant. When you get something printed, it's CMYK, which is basically your cyan, magenta, and yellow and black. And that's how all things are printed. If I can, I will try and put a side by side. Because I use Procreate, sometimes I have to design in CMYK. So anytime I design a product, I tend to design it like that. It feels weird when you're used to being on Procreate because normally get nice vibrant colours, and they're not quite as vibrant, but it works out when it's printed. But I'll put the two together so you can see what I mean. So anyway, although you can take something that you've created digitally, which originally Sarah did with all of these colour palettes, and get them printed off, and the printers themselves change things into CMYK, it's different if you actually start from that point, which is now what she has done. So what I'm going to do is, sorry, if all that technical stuff has gone over your head, it doesn't really matter. If you're having fun playing with them and you can match your paint to this, that's all you need to worry about. But what I'm wanting to do is to find, because there are repeats, there's going to be about 400 repeats, I think, because Colour Cubes 1 and 2 have just sort of been revamped. She's taken 100 old colour palettes out, which I will talk to you about in a minute. So they have been revamped, but they are the same. In fact, I recognise this one. This one I did in my Colour Cube challenge videos. So I'm going to pull out a few that are the same and see if we can actually see the difference between the original cards and the new ones and all the fancy sciencey stuff that's gone into it, whether that's made a bit of a difference. Okay, I'm not sure how well this is actually going to show up on screen, but this is the original card and this is the updated card. So you can see that the categories have been changed because this one's jumped from being number 12 to number 750, and this is now in the category of beautiful birds, which makes complete sense. So again, if you've got a bird stamp, bird colouring page, you just need to bring out that small category and you can have a look. So you can't see a huge difference, but there is differences. And this is the difference between it changing how you send a product to a printer. If you start off with CMYK colours, you get a more accurate colour when it's printed out. So that's ever so slightly more purpley than that one. And this one here, you can see that this one is slightly richer and more orangey than that one. But where you really notice the difference is, if I was to flip them around, is Sarah has spent ages naming every single colour. So on the original we had dark blue, it's now St. Patrick's blue. We had hunter green, now we have Dartmoor green. We had the apple green has stayed the same, and we've gone from mustard to saffron and from scarlet to vermilion. Now, why does this matter? I'm going to take out some more cards, and this is one of the things that I did find frustrating because I started a series on this channel called the Colour Cube Challenge, and I worked my way through all the different colour cubes. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but we've got, just in these few cards here, okay, I'm going to put all those greens next together because we can see that. So there's the greens there, but if we actually look at the back of them, all three of them are called hunter green. All three of them have different hex codes. So this one is H2E6927. This one was 125414, and this one is 465F62. So technically, these are 3 different greens, and yet they're all called hunter green. And I have to say, I did find that a bit confusing and a bit repetitive when it came to doing my challenge. So for me, I quite like the difference in that. The other, did I see the other things there? We've got 2 dark blues. So they're both called dark blue, but this one is 1B2771 and this one is 142B7B. So if you are doing things digitally, then this is a game changer because it really, the accuracy is so much better. If you're just still matching traditional methods or physical paints and things to these cards, it doesn't matter as much, but it's a lot less confusing when you don't have multiple colours with the same name. So that is one of the differences. I just want to pull the 2 original cards back in here because I think when we have them turned around you can really see the difference. So those colours there are much, like that one's a lot darker than that, and you can see the brightness level is different, and you can see it on the blues as well. So yes, you can see a difference. I wasn't sure if we would, but just pulling out and comparing that one card, you can see a difference between all the science that went behind actually creating these cards. As I said, go and check out Sarah's channel and her launch video because she explains it so much better than I am. Now we're going to do some colouring. What I'm going to do, as I've said before, I think we will do 1 page at random where we just pick a number between 1 and 1,000 and do that, and then we're going to choose one a bit more specifically where we will get an image but we will find a matching category and match it up. So we will do a bit of colouring together and then come back with our final thoughts on this product. Just one more thing, I was about to clear up my desk to start colouring, and this is my old thing. It's only a minor thing, but can you see that? I mean, it's very minor. It's not going to ruin my life at all. But the edge of my box is bashed. And believe me, I take very good care of my boxes. But these are wooden. That's going to stay as crisp and sharp, you know, for as long as I have it, which is awesome. I mean, I can live with a dent. It wouldn't be... But I'd rather not. I like things looking pristine and pretty. So yay for the wooden boxes. So for the first make testing out the new colour cubes, I decided to go with one of my quirky birds. So I went into the beautiful bird section to choose my colour palette. And I went for this one because although it has the warm colours, it also had the cool colours, and I thought I could create a wintry scene with it. And seeing as this bird is sort of wearing her earmuffs and scarf, I thought that worked quite well. So the reason I originally bought the colour cubes was, as I said, I do love colour, and I'm pretty switched on when it comes to colour theory. It's one of my favourite subjects, colour. I love it, and I've got books on the psychology of colour and the history of colour and colour theory, and I absolutely adore anything really colourful. I find it a very fascinating subject. But even with all of this knowledge, I was still finding that I would still pick the same colours to colour with. Just sometimes, I think as well, because I may be creating to a schedule, because I'm either designing products or I am, you know, doing videos, that it was just sort of easier to just pull out what I was familiar with. And I really felt like I needed to push myself creatively. And what's been really interesting, as I was working through the box, I ended up creating stuff that I wouldn't normally even create because the colourway kind of put me into a different direction. So that's the reason I bought them. And the reason that I love them, because it's just expanded that love of colour that I already have, and it's pushed me to do things. And although I knew these colour combos existed, I sort of still stuck to the same old. So I do highly recommend it. I think it's really good for just doing something a little bit different from time to time. So yeah, love it. The next one, I decided to do a random generator, and I came up with number 199. Now this is kind of what I mean about
not sure what to do. To be honest, I thought the colour combo was beautiful, but I was a bit stumped. I tend to like go with characters or, yeah, do a lot of faces, and so when there isn't those skin tones in, I sort of panic. But you can actually just use the card as inspiration. So that's exactly what I did here. I took the actual image as well as the colour palette. I took the image and just sort of drew out some blossoms. I didn't have a good grey that properly matched, so I ended up just doing a little bit of blending together to make it the right grey. And then I wanted to do white blossoms over, but sometimes the acrylic markers move a little bit, so I just put a little bit of clear gesso down first and then did the blossoms. So this is the other thing about the colour cube cards as well. You don't just have to gain inspiration from the palettes, they're also a resource for sketching and for looking at the design that's in them, and that can give you design ideas as well. So really, really fun product, and absolutely adore what I have.
So, in conclusion, I love them. I absolutely adore them. Yes, my colour magpie-ness was a lit and that was the motivation for buying them, but actually having spent time getting to know them, playing, having a look at the new features, I think they are going to be really, really useful. I do want to emphasise I purchased these myself with my own money. I wasn't gifted them or sent them or asked to review, so the opinions are very, very honest, because, you know, if I wasn't happy I'd be gutted right now. Because they are a considered purchase, but I'm very happy. I don't regret the spend in the slightest. I'm really excited about how much I am going to use them. I've always used them probably a bit more in my design work to make sure that I'm not just churning out the same colour palettes all the time when it comes to making papers and stamps and things. But I think in actual videos and creating on the page as well, it's going to push me outside my comfort zone a lot more. And I do think sometimes those purchases are the best purchases to make, purchases that help you grow as a creative, and this is definitely one of those things. So I'm really, really excited. Also really excited to see what's going to come in the digital format with logging all your supplies. It will be interesting to see how much that costs. I'm hoping it's going to be within my budget. But I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. I will be back next week, next Friday, with another video, and I think what we're going to have to do is revive the Colour Cube Challenge. So I'll be back next Friday with edition 2 of that challenge. See you next week. Bye!